Okay, let's pick up where we left off. Chapter 11, Camp Coo Coos Coos. When you say it, I know it's a funny word. There's only two S's, so it's Coo Coos Coos, not Coos Coos Coos. Okay? All right. Camp Coo Coos Coos was on a small lake deep in the woods of Ontario. There were no summer cottages on the lake, no outboard motors, no roads with cars rushing by. It was a wilderness lake, just right for boys. Mr. Beaver left Sam and Lewis at the end of a dirt road, and they finished their journey to camp by canoe. Sam sat in the stern and paddled. Lewis stood in the bow and looked straight ahead. The camp consisted of a big log cabin where everybody ate, 7 tents where the boys and the counselors slept, a dock out front, and a privy out back. The woods closed in all around, but there was a bare spot that had been made into a tennis court, and there were plenty of canoes in which to take trips to other lakes. There were about 40 boys. When Sam's canoe grounded on the sandy beach next to the camp dock, Lewis stepped ashore wearing his slate, his chalk pencil, and his trumpet. About 20 boys rushed down to the landing to see what was going on. They could hardly believe their eyes. "Hey, look what's here!" one of the boys yelled. "A bird!" cried another. "Look at the size of him." Everybody crowded around Lewis, wanting to get a close look at the new camper. Sam had to push some of the boys back to keep Lewis from getting crushed. "Take it easy, will you?" Sam implored. That evening after supper, the director of the camp, Mr. Brickle, built a big campfire in front of the main lodge. The boys gathered round. They sang songs and toasted marshmallows and swatted mosquitoes. Sometimes you couldn't understand the words of a song because the boys sang with marshmallows in their mouths. Lewis did not join the group. He stood by himself at a little distance. After a while, Mr. Brickle rose to his feet and addressed the boys and the counselors. "I call your attention," he said, "to a new camper in our midst, Lewis the Swan. He is a trumpeter swan, a rare bird. We are lucky to have him. I have employed him at the same salary I pay my junior counselors, $100 for the season. He is gentle and has a speech defect. He came here from Montana with Sam Beaver. Lewis is a musician. Like most musicians, he is in need of money. He will wake you at daybreak with his trumpet. He will call you to meals, and at night, when you are dropping off to sleep, he will play taps, and that will bring the day to a close. I caution you to treat him as an equal and to treat him with respect. He packs a terrific wallop with one of those wings. I now introduce, for your listening pleasure, Lewis the Swan. Take a bow, Lewis." Lewis was embarrassed, but he came forward and bowed. Then he raised his trumpet to his mouth and blew a long coo. When he finished, from the opposite shore of the lake, there came the echo, "Coo-oo!" The boys clapped. Lewis bowed again. Sam Beaver, sitting with the others, his mouth full of marshmallows, was delighted that his plan had succeeded. At the end of the summer, Lewis would have $100. A boy named Applegate Skinner stood up. "Mr. Brickle," he said, "what about me? I don't care for birds. I never liked birds." "Okay, Applegate," said Mr. Brickle, "you don't have to like birds. If that's the way you feel about it, just go ahead not liking birds. Everyone is entitled to his likes and dislikes and to his prejudices. Come to think of it, I don't care for pistachio ice cream. I don't know why I don't like it, but I don't. Do not forget, however, that Lewis is one of your counselors. Whether you like him or not, he must be treated with respect." One of the new boys, who had never been to camp before, stood up. "Mr. Brickle," he said, "why is this camp called Camp Coo Coos Coos? What does Coo Coos Coos mean?" "It's an Indian name for the great horned owl," replied Mr. Brickle. The new boy thought about this for a minute. "Then why didn't you just call it Camp Great Horned Owl instead of Camp Coo Coos Coos?" "Because," replied Mr. Brickle, "a boys' camp should have a peculiar name." Highlight the word peculiar. So, a peculiar name. Peculiar means odd, strange, or unusual. So Mr. Brickle is saying that camps He's saying boys' camps, but probably all camps in general, should have a strange name. And Camp Coo Coos Coos, the more you say it, it's a strange name. It is peculiar. Otherwise, it doesn't sound interesting. Coo Coos Coos is a terrific name. It is a long word, but it has only 3 letters in it. It has 2 S's, 3 K's, and 6 O's. You don't find many names as kooky as that. The queerer the name, the better the camp. Anyway, welcome to Camp Coo Coos Coos. It rhymes with moose. That's another good thing about it. And now it's time for everybody to go to bed. You may take a swim before breakfast tomorrow, and you don't need to wear your swim trunks. Just jump out of bed when you hear the trumpet of the swan, strip off your pajamas, race to the dock, and dive in. I will be there ahead of you to do my celebrated backflip from the diving tower. It freshens me up for the hard day ahead. Good night, Lewis. Good night, Sam. Good night, Applegate. Good night, all. The light was fading. The boys straggled off to their tents in the darkness. The senior counselors sat together on the porch and smoked one last pipe. Sam crawled in under his blankets in tent 3. Lewis walked to a high, flat rock by the shore and stood there waiting. When the lights were all out, he faced the camp, raised his horn to his mouth, and blew taps. Day is done, gone the sun, from the lake, from the hills, from the sky. All is well, safely rest, God is nigh. You probably know the song Taps. If you want to look it up on Google, or ask if you have an Alexa or a Google Home at your house, ask it to play Taps and you'll recognize the song. The last notes seemed to linger on the still waters of the lake. From their beds, the boys heard the beautiful sound. They felt sleepy and serene and happy. All but Applegate Skinner, who didn't care for birds at bedtime. All right, highlight the word serene. It's at the top of the page right under the picture. So it sounds like Serena, kind of interesting. Serene means free from trouble or calm. So at night when they're all trying to go to sleep, you want everything to be serene. You want things to be calm and quiet to help you go to sleep. But even Applegate was soon asleep, along with the others in his tent. He was asleep and he was snoring. People who dislike birds often snore. A deep peace fell over Camp Coo Coos Coos. So we've started the beginning of being a camp for the summer, and it seems like it's going to be a pretty easy camp. But if you look at chapter 12, which I'm going to read to you tomorrow, it's called The Rescue. So you can have an idea about what you think is going to happen. So with your packet, guys, if you haven't, answer all for questions for chapter 10 and answer all questions for chapter 11. And then tomorrow I'll read chapter 12. All right? Enjoy.